Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, 8 o'clock in the morning here in Lanzarote. So it's 9 in Les Abdelone and 7 UTC. We've had a few hectic days. Sorry we didn't get the tracker up yesterday. We try to do it every day, but we were certainly in and out of the office a bit, and a lot going on. So we're back into the routine this week, and it's going to be a very interesting week by the look of it with the weather. So you can see here now the lack of wind that we talked about has come in over the fleet. You may not have, if you're a subscriber, you would have got the news last night about just before midnight, maybe 9 hours ago. It would have come straight to your inbox and you would have read the press release talking about this lack of wind coming across. We mentioned it a few days ago, which is going to really start to stretch the fleet out a bit and create challenges for the back of the fleet, middle of the fleet and the front of the fleet. Anyway, the press release, I just put it up on Facebook 5 minutes ago. We forgot to do it last night because we were all keen to go to bed because it went out very late and then I forgot. So, but anyway, you can subscribe to the newsletters. And here you've got this constant northeasterly airflow, which is just missing out on the gap here right over the fleet. So Arnaud is the tail ender right now, and Simon looks like he's about to make a big jump. If we put a couple of tags in here, you can see the fleet now is stretched out for about 650 miles. So there's quite a stretch. It's going to be interesting to see what it looks like by the time the leaders get to Cape Town. Once again, remember the magic figure, 550 miles for Damien. There's actually 560 miles virtually splitting the fleet. So Damien's made no gains at all on Simon Kerwin. Simon's been able to keep going, stretch the relative lead with the rest of the fleet, working very hard. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, the fleet is absolutely stretching out. So again, I'll now just pop this in and we can start looking at individual situations. Back end of the fleet, Damien's making 5.5 knots, which is pretty good. He's just missed this really soft area here. I'm assuming his WeatherFax is working. He's seen the isobaric map, and there's a gradient of no wind in the middle, so he stayed out to the west of the course, or it could be just simply pure good luck. We don't really know. And Arnaud's making 4.1 knots. That's not too bad. He's chugging along, and I think you'll see what happens to the weather when we finish this. He might be okay there for a while. Mark Sinclair slowed down 3.3 because you can see no wind there. He's been a bit in and out, up to 5 knots at times. Ian Herbert Jones is parked. He's basically paid his parking fee and stopped. He's basically not moving and hasn't gone very far during the night at all. We are hoping to see him today, but that may not happen. And Elliot's pretty much the same. He fell in the hole, was only doing one knot and a bit sort of thing, but now he's doing 3.4, so hopefully we'll get to see him today. I'll just build this up so we can get a relative picture here. And once again, it might be too big, but anyway, here we go. So Elliot is virtually hardly moving, but we had thought we might see him this afternoon at lunchtime, and just to see what his distance is now. Let's go here. Come on, boom, boom. So Elliot has approximately 46 miles to go to get into the rounding mark. And normally that would be about 9 hours, but when you're doing 3.4 knots, that's going to be 15 hours or 16 hours. So we'll monitor that during the day. You can follow the tracker to get his ETAs, but it's certainly, he'll be struggling to get in before dark, and even then it might take some. So, but we'll talk about the overall weather later. And Ian Herbert Jones, way behind. He won't be in today, I doubt it. But anyway, that's another story. Michael Goog came through in style yesterday in the sun, and the colours of his boat was really pretty spectacular. You've no doubt seen the photos. Only making 3 knots. So again, everyone's slowing down. Jeremy and Ayrton came through, 1.6 knots, not a lot happening there. Ayrton 1.7 knots, they're sort of parked pretty much, just drifting along, but they will be enjoying the ride. Ayrton was probably one of the happiest chappies in the whole fleet. He doesn't care, you know. It was a really great interview. He's the lead Corinthian, but Jeremy's right on his hammer next door. They're both Corinthians. They're basically unsponsored, and happy to be enjoying the ride. I think Jeremy's maybe a bit more keen to push the pressure and performance, but Ayrton's certainly happy just to make sure he really enjoys it. And I've got to say, Guy Waits is a bit the same. You know, he's also clearly declared he wants to enjoy this, but he's a racing guy. He's, if nothing else, chasing Kirsten, but doing 2.5 knots, so probably a bit frustrated, but maybe cleaning up the cabin or cooking eggs and bacon for breakfast, who knows what. Kirsten, very obvious she wants to be right up the front, so at least she's doing 5.1 knots, and she wants to be first boat into Cape Town, no question about that. Abelish and Pat, they've made a bet on the eastern side of the course and completely lucked out. They've losing ground completely now to the leader, Simon, hardly moving, 0.9 of a knot and 0.3 of a knot. That could go on for a while. Tapio made a big blunder, same again. I think he detected pretty quickly that the east side of the course was not the place to be, slowly worked his way out, and at least now he was moving, but not at the moment. He's only doing 1.6 knots, so it's going to be a sunning day today. But Simon's just been hanging in there all the way through. He hasn't gone less than 4 knots. He's still making 4.7 knots. He's could be in for a big break here over the next 24 hours. So luck of the draw, call it what you like. You know, when you're in the lead, it sometimes works like this. So if we now just say look at the general, we'll forget about the tail enders for the moment, but I'll just explain what's going to happen here. This system is, I'll get rid of the, well, in actual fact, let's just look at the distance that Simon is now from Tapio, for instance. If we look at distance apart for the boats, remembering that they were together side by side pretty much leading into the film drop, 120 miles apart, so that's the distance apart. In terms of on the run line with the course, leader to the second boat, it's probably something like that if we come across here. He's got about an 80-mile lead. Now, by that I mean Tapio doesn't have to come over and get behind Simon. He's on the run line. He's got to go this way. Simon's got to do the same thing. They're both heading down towards Trinidadi. That's the next rounding mark. So if you look at that, yeah, it's about 80 miles. So Simon's about 80 miles in front of the second place boat. And just to keep looking at Kirsten, not to let her feel too sad at her position, she's 195 miles behind, so a couple of days behind, but they won't have this weather gap situation. Once they get rid of this coastal influence of the calms here, I think you'll see they're all going to be in the same sort of airstream until they get to the doldrums. Then it's the luck of the draw, and then it's once they're in the South Atlantic, it's a drag race down to Trinidadi. So a few things developing there. Now what's happening with the ongoing weather? If we go forward a day, in fact I'll pull this back so you do get an impression of the whole fleet before I push the weather, and come back to 8:30 tomorrow. That's too far ahead. 19th, that's still a little bit far. There's 12 o'clock. So, well, anyway, 12 at midday tomorrow. No, that's midday today, sorry. I didn't get much sleep last night. Here we go. It's 19th today. I want to go a little bit more. Come on. It's a little bit more. But anyway, you can see in the next 24 hours that trough here is moving out to the east, and the wind does come over the fleet, so they'll all start getting moving. But Simon will have a break of at least, if I come back again, so this is by sort of late tonight, 10 o'clock tonight, Simon's now moving, he's the first one that's going to get down into this higher wind gradient, okay, so he may start accelerating away from from Tapio behind again. Kirsten's going to be still sitting in this hole. This is going to go all day. Ian Herbert Jones, you can see he's still in it late in the day. It's going to come over the top of Damien a bit. He's going to be going slow. So everyone's going to be going slow, but Simon may increase the lead. There's a bit of breeze in the middle of the fleet. Elliot might hook that. We may see him late tonight. So that's the first day. If we then go into, hang on a sec, my targeting's not so good, 19, 20, 21. So this is in 2 days, 48 hours from now. All these boats are in it. So Simon, Tapio, Abelish, Pat, Kirsten. In fact, most of the fleet then will be in this breeze. Ian Herbert Jones will have caught up. So yesterday everyone's in the flow. Damien and so on, they'll be just down in it as well. So it's not as dramatic as we had thought, but there's certainly going to be a few shake-ups in the fleet. The overall fleet size is going to stretch out. Nothing happening with waves. If I come down here, it's all going to be in the blue and light blue, so it's either flat calm or maybe 1 metre. Beautiful sailing. They'd all deserve it. They'll be enjoying the ride, but there will be some complete frustrations at sitting there and listening to the other boats sail away. So that's what happens with yacht racing. Anyway, one of the things you'll read in the which was a real eye-opener, we've been following a potential hurricane developing down south, and we wrote the press release yesterday afternoon, got it all set up, and issued that late last night. But about an hour before we issued it, the weather changed. Now I'll try and I'm not sure. I'm using the normal internet windy. I don't use the windy here on the tracker to give me the updated forecast, because I pay this extra 18 euro a year to get updates every hour, more sophisticated gradients, lots of other features. So I check all the weather on my windy site, and basically if we come through, we might get just far enough. No, it doesn't even extend far enough forward. No, it's not there. Okay, so I'm going to go to the windy site now. This is I've swapped off. I'm not on the tracker anymore. I'll just upgrade this, shoot it around. So similar, those that haven't seen a normal internet windy, there's a lot more features here on the side. You can pull up all sorts of stuff. You've got a sliding scale along the bottom here to pick whatever day you want. So you can see here, this is the Canaries, the big hole that we're looking at. This gives you a bit more accurate information. Okay, I'm not sure the service that Windy provides to the tracker, it's very good, but certainly if you pay the subscription, you're going to get better here. So I'm walking this through every day. You can see the hole is still there, and if I come through, you'll see what's happening here. But by the time we came over here on Thursday, this was actually a hurricane developing. It was completely different yesterday afternoon, because on Thursday this hurricane had developed, this one here. It was just to the west of the east of Cape Verdes. Here's the Cape Verdes there, and it was very intense already. By Thursday night, this was showing 35-40 knots in this hurricane, and then when you came into Friday, it was 40 knot, 45 knot forecast, which would have been gusting over 50. Okay, and it was very intense, and it was a complete blocking situation for the fleet coming down here, and I was just starting to get concerned. I've been watching it for a couple of days, but luckily, all of a sudden, bingo, it's softened right off. So now it is absolutely a low pressure system, but it's certainly not an intense hurricane like was forecast. You can slide this wind arrow around and get the wind strength anywhere you want. So you can see now it's still going to be a bit of a blow. It's forecasting there 30 knots in the most dangerous quadrant, which is in the northeastern corner of the low going around. But it was showing, it would have been gusting over 50 knots before, so I was happy to see that happen. Nonetheless, it's still some days away. It's the end of the week. You can see as it's going further out, it's now starting to pick up. This is the wind strength gradient colour on the side. So when you're getting into these purples and blues, you're getting 50s and 60 knots. Now, if I enlarge this, you can see there's a blue patch. This is forecast wind on this little arrow. If I put it into the top there, in certain parts when you're moving it around, it's 40s, 40, 41, 43. You've then got to add on at least 25%, maybe 30% for gusts. So, that's gusting, over 50 knots. But what we'll be advising, I'll still be telling the fleet about this probably from tomorrow, is that we're monitoring, it's forming, but it hasn't created a block. If this goes true to form, there is a bit of an opportunity to stay close to the coast and miss the worst, because if we go back, you'll see it's only at the moment getting much more intense the moment you move off the coast. So if the entrance maintain this direction here and not go out too wide, they're going to be in a much better position. So if I go back a day, it's just going to be good, strong following winds. Any entrant could come scooting down here. If he's in this position, it's still, reaching winds. And if they're still here, it's on the nose, but it's not extreme or dangerous, but it's still something to watch. So we're watching it, but it's not as severe as it was looking late yesterday afternoon. I'm hoping that continues and it softens off, but you never know, it may increase in strength. The other thing is we've got the different models here. We use a model that's called ECMWF. That's the model. This is the computer model simulation, which is on the tracker, okay? But there is another one, and you watch what happens when I hit that. This computer model already, in exactly the same time, exactly the same place, is predicting something completely different. It's dramatically different. So there is a low pressure system down here, but it's a lot softer. There's no sign of a hurricane and so on. Now, the reason there's such contrast there, because usually between the computer models, they're very similar or just a little bit different. The reason it's so different is it's unpredictable. You have a general system of weather. And if I open this up, you can see there's generally stuff going on around here. You've got the trades coming down, heading down towards the doldrums. You've got the remnants of the southeasterly trades coming up. That's very traditional. But this is a wild card. It's very unstable, and even the reporting positions where they get their barometric pressures to make up, that's the raw data to make up the computer model. They're not so accurate, and it's really a bit of guesswork going on, so we never know what's going to happen there. So we'll be watching that every day. Will it be looking like this and getting more intense, or will it be the GFS model? Now, when they're in the Southern Ocean, we monitor both, and they're usually pretty similar with slight differences, but this is dramatic because there's a bit of guesswork. Weather is science and art and guesswork all combined. So keep your fingers crossed. That's something that the entrants don't want to deal with in any way, shape or form. They're all expecting to have a nice ride down. I didn't bring it up to the entrants in the sail past through the film drop because it's no use worrying about it because it may not happen. But certainly it looks like from tomorrow I may well be advising entrants when they go through the Cape Verdes here to maintain a position close in on the coast. We'll see. Bernard Batessi will be through in a couple of days, and Simon will need to consider that as well. So plenty happening. That's about it for now. That was a long one. We'll look forward to seeing Elliot soon, but